Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Are you on Substack? Because I am, and I'd love to connect with you there. I process things there over Saturdays and Sundays, days off, sometimes weeknights as I'm researching and reading other articles, and it inspires me to write things where I'm going deeper into the behind the scenes of what some of the episodes on A World of Difference are all about. I'd love to connect with you there. So if you are on Substack, find me. You can go to loriadamsbrown.substack.com as a free, or I would prefer a paid subscriber, because then you get access to more of the in-depth things that are exclusively for my paid subscribers. I keep my prices as low as they can be on Substack, as low as they allow. But I do believe in being paid for my work, and I believe you should be paid for yours too. So join me there and let's make a difference together. Welcome to the A World of Difference podcast. I'm Lori Adams Brown, and this is a podcast for those who are different and want to make a difference. Hey everyone, welcome back to A World of Difference, all of you difference makers around the world. Today we are diving into a conversation that is both urgent and inspiring. My guest is Dr. Pamela Donnelly. She's a powerhouse in education, the visionary behind the American Access Institute, and the creator of Catapult, a groundbreaking platform using AI to open career doors for vulnerable youth. Think about this. Tens of thousands of teens, especially those aging out of foster care, are stepping into adulthood without the tools or the mentors they need to thrive. Dr. Donnelly is here to change that. We're talking about equitable access, AI-powered career pathways, and real-world partnerships that are breaking systemic barriers. If you've ever wondered how we can prepare the next generation for jobs that don't even exist yet, this conversation is one that you need to hear. She's a summa cum laude graduate of Columbia University in the city of New York, and later got her PhD in global leadership and change from Pepperdine University here in California. Dr. Donnelly has spent over 2 decades shaping the future of education. She previously founded 3 companies in the education center: Valley Prep Tutoring in Los Angeles, EdTech startup Gate College System, and her ongoing college admissions and ghostwriting services offered through Pamela M. Donnelly Consulting. Her work has guided thousands of students through elite college admissions with customized mentoring, GPA support, SAT, ACT prep, and essay coaching, backed by top-tier staff of tutors and coaches. But Dr. Donnelly is also a best-selling author, including SWAT Team Tactics for Getting Your Teen into College and 4 Keys to College Admission Success. If any of you are out there trying to help your children navigate applying for college and the college process right now in the United States or anywhere, you know that it can be tricky sometimes. And for children in the foster care system, they don't even have that privilege of parents walking alongside them. You know, she's been frequently a media expert that's been featured on CNN, NBC, ABC, Fox News, Time Magazine, and the New York Times. Her thought leadership has been sought through engagements with presidential candidates, the U.S. Department of Education, and the Federal Student Aid Office here in the United States. This is a conversation you do not want to miss. I cannot wait to have you hear from Pamela Donnelly herself. So let's dive in. Hello, Dr. Donnelly, and welcome to A World of Difference podcast.
Great to be here. Hi, everybody.
I'm excited for our conversation today because we had a chance to actually meet in person, which is always so much better these days. I really enjoyed our time at the Alley to Valley conference we both attended. And I know it was not your first one, but it was my first one, and I had a great time, and it was great to meet you in Palo Alto and hear a little bit more about the great work you're doing in the world. And so really excited to have our difference makers globally listen to you, talk about your perspective, and bring your differences around the table today. In terms of just the work that you're doing, I know there's a lot of work around just access for people who may not have the same access. And so your organization, I'm curious to know a little bit more. How does AAI help vulnerable teens, including those aging out of foster care, to access the tools, the mentorship, and resources they need for career readiness?
Sure. Yeah. So our organization is AmericanAccessInstitute.org. You guys can find us online. We're doing a lot of innovating in the ed tech space because there is so much pain out there in not just the foster care space, but any young person of a transitional age who is dealing with adversity, and now they're going out into the workforce in many cases, if not most cases, depending on the kind of support systems that they do or don't have, into an unknown job market with unknown quantities. They don't know what's available. They don't know what kind of training they would need. The old college for everyone days are gone, and we are now in a time where those who can will pursue higher ed. And I was a college admissions professional. I've founded 4 companies, right? So started off, running a tutoring agency that I founded, went on, did all kinds of other things in the educational technology space. But I've really come to a place with my nonprofit that I really feel like is what is needed today, which is we've got to make sure that the most vulnerable among us have a way forward. And the kids who don't have parents and who are literally being moved from home to home very often are ending up, dealing with homelessness. A lot of them end up incarcerated. A lot of them end up with addiction. And here in Las Vegas, where I'm based, an unfortunate number of them do end up being trafficked. So there is just no way that I was going to sit around and not do something about that kind of a problem. So I began a couple years ago kind of casting a vision for how might I work with a team to build some technology to help solve this problem at scale. And that's what we're now doing.
It's so incredible. There really have been so many changes just even in the last few months with education here in the United States. There's some significant shifts that we're seeing, not just geopolitically, but the way our country and the way politics is handled, Department of Education, access, safety nets. And so all of those situations have just created even more vulnerability for a lot of the young people in our society. And I know wherever you're listening, we all know that how our society treats our children, how they position them to come into the world to work and make our country better is significant, and it really a litmus test for our societies. I'm really interested to hear from you. How does the Catapult platform with AI mentors and partners like Road Trip Nation, USC, and the new Catapult Access.ai app guide students into a more personalized career path?
Well, yeah, so the platform that we've developed is Catapult, and what we're using is this is trauma-informed care. I have been looking into some of your background, Lori, and I know that you're very familiar with the importance of considering who is the end user in any endeavor. And in our case, we are working with traumatized individuals, whether those are pregnant teenagers, whether those are justice-involved young men, whether those are folks who are what some people would say on the margins or on the fringes, but truly we can bring them into our society in a much more intentional way just by providing them with access to the information that they need. So Catapult is a blended learning platform. As an example of a use case, this summer we were working with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. They have a program called the DREAM program, and it's an acronym, and DREAM stands for all these great words. And what it means is a room full of young mostly men who are on parole and in the juvenile justice system. And these kids don't have parents that are helping them, and they don't know what they're going to do. And they're definitely not heading to Princeton or Harvard. How do we help these young men so they don't end up in prison? And so they were very excited to the point that not only did we use Catapult with them, and I went down in person and worked with some of these kids. It was really quite exciting for me as an educator for all these years. And then to be able to bring that out into all different other kinds of organizations, but they're bringing us back this fall. We're going to be doing it all over now Catapult is available. We're launching in locations all over Florida with our partners at Fostering Connections. That's going to be foster kids all across Florida have access to that tool. And then, yes, we're building a mobile app as well. So I will say we were really lucky. We were just named for the Educational Equity Award with Amazon Web Services. So that's a significant grant, and that is allowing us to offer what we're doing pro bono, because as we know, just as the educational landscape is changing, like you said, so too our funding mechanisms. A lot of funding has gone away this year in 2025. So we're having to find ways for these larger corporations to be able to help fund the kind of work and innovation that needs to get out there.
Absolutely. And congratulations, by the way. That's significant. I'm really excited for you and for everybody that will benefit. It's true. I interview people around the world that the Doge situation here in the United States where U.S. aid was pulled. I mean, it's affecting Africa. It's affecting so many places, including our own nation. And so we are seeing so many nonprofits have to figure out other ways for funding. And, I do feel like it's part of corporate social responsibility for those corporations, especially that have become very close and friendly with an administration that has pulled these funds, to then therefore take up that responsibility to help with grants and funding of organizations if they're going to be that way. So it is not necessarily a preferred way, but at least some way to sort of repair some of the things that have been broken. I know there's a lot of barriers that you face in the work that you're doing, and overcoming them is so important and sometimes exhausting, and probably often exhausting. But I'd love for you to share how students in programs like DREAM with the Las Vegas Metro Police have overcome a lot of these systemic challenges, the justice system issues, the housing instability, the food insecurity, and even the gaps in school access.
Sure. Every student is different, but I will say that one of the reasons we're building out the mobile app that we are is that we want students in all 50 states to know where the free access to resources are in their community. So imagine a map of the US and just on any device being able to click a button, go in, and then AI goes brrr, and it fans out everything from food to shelter to medical, like what is available in any part of this country, down to very geographically specific subsets of regions. So we're very excited about that, because it's not just enough to give a man a fish, you have to teach a man to fish. And so the app is there to give the young people, like those in the DREAM program, like those in the foster system, like the other organizations that we're helping, give them what they need to know so they have access to where do I go, what do I do, especially from a trauma-informed lens, because the kids get overwhelmed quite easily. The lived experience, this isn't just about, oh, ain't it awful? No, actually, let's all just take 5 seconds to actually picture, I'm a 17-year-old kid who's got one parent in prison, the other one overdosed and is dead. I've been bouncing into 6 different foster care homes over the last number of years. I'm about to age out. I don't have a plan. I don't know where I'm going, and nobody's got a safety net under me. How must that feel? And then now you say, go get a career. And the kid goes, God, how, what, where, how do they have no idea. So Catapult is coming in with blended learning, and blended learning means tech plus team. So the mentors with the organizations, whether these are social workers or CASAs, we're getting ready to have 2,500 kids come in through a local Title I high school. All of their counselors are being trained up on this. So, kids below the poverty line, by the way, they face adversity. It's, we're working right now with a local rehab center for people who are trying to get sober and have no idea how to put together a career because they've been. So the trauma-informed lens, the how it happens is through a technology that is interactive, very, it's got trade secrets and all kinds of stuff. Catapult, people get pretty excited. And it's not just the tech, it is the back end, which has all kinds of charts, graphs, and data. So our nonprofit partners are able to track and to be able to prove the metrics of the kids that they're helping and how this program is moving them toward a tangible outcome of military pathway, trade school pathway, entrepreneurship pathway, technology upskilling. Those are the big 4. So that's what we're doing. And it's got to be that simple. It cannot be, you can't talk over the head of somebody who's already been to hell and back. You have got to come in with compassionate iteration, and you've got to really listen. And we've been tweaking and iterating since we started this thing a couple years ago. And we are now really catching fire. And I'm deeply grateful, because honestly, it's legacy work for all of us who are involved in it. We're doing this to leave behind something good.
It's so incredibly important. I find that in situations like this, people often make a lot of assumptions that what has worked for them, especially if they've had a level of privilege, and privilege at this point, what we're talking about is if you've had a home and you have a home, like basically if you have shelter, that is a privilege that some of these kids you're working with don't have, or if you have two parents who are living and in that home with you, all of those things, if you have not walked through that, I mean, sometimes people just make assumptions about, well, pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Like, why is this so hard? This is a meritocracy. And all of those ideas get in the way, especially when we're talking about trauma-informed care, because we've had people who have explained that a little bit more here on the podcast in the past. And you and I both know, having worked in these situations, and all of that trauma affects not just your brain, but your body, and it rewires your brain. So your abilities have changed. We're not working with the same set of abilities. And that's because these individuals are suffering. This is not their fault. This is not something that they should have changed, but they're in a system. And I think sometimes people will put resources out there and say, here's this, look at this website. There's 50,000 links for you to choose from. Even that is overwhelming for a trauma-informed brain. It has to be simplified, has to be easy. So as you're scaling this impact and you're trying to simplify and make it more easy, how are the partnerships with schools and communities and tech platforms helping AAI scale its impact, such as onboarding thousands of students this fall at this Title I high school, support with the grants from Amazon Web Services?
Well, I mean, a lot of what we're doing is actually using things like humor, animation, AI-related content, and AI-generated content. So, like, for example, our partners at the University of Southern California, well, they're collaborators more than partners, but what they've done is they've given free access to a tool that they spent millions and millions of dollars developing through, I believe it was a Department of Defense grant that they got for a thing called MentorPal. So these are digital virtual mentors. So, one thing that a lot of these young people lack is social capital. Like you said, there's no parent in the home. They don't have an aunt or an uncle that can help them get an internship wherever. They don't even know what an internship is. On Catapult, they learn that. They also build their resume. They also know how to write a cover letter and have exact templates that they can plug and play and print. They also can do a million other things that I'm not even going to go into, but the lack of social capital is one of the big barriers. So when you can offer an AI generated mentor panel, which is what we have through MentorPal, that is a total game changer, because not only are the kids able to click and feel like they're interacting with all these different types of professions by clicking preloaded questions. They can type in their own questions and it will animate an answer and help them understand what that career pathway or what that military branch and that particular job in that military branch. There's all kinds of nuance there. And then the same with Road Trip Nation. These guys, they're a very big nonprofit in the ed tech space. They have more than 16,000 videos of all different career paths. And I'm talking documentary level. These guys, serious Emmy Award level stuff going on over there. You think I have time with my little nonprofit to make 16,000 videos and then also build the thing that USC has? So what I've been doing, I go to conferences. You met me at I'm a networker. I get out there. I'm banging the drum for these kids, and I'm looking to welcome in folks who care enough about these problems to partner with us, because I've got the Catapult platform. We're built out, but what we're doing is bringing in pieces of content to make an even more robust user experience. And we're really proud of how that is enriching what's already there, which is animated, gamified, like the kids dig it. First thing they do, it's called Catapult. The first thing they do is pick out a cat avatar. Like, which cat are you? It's like, are you the panther? Are you the little calico cat? It's very fun and in some ways young, but young in a way that is actually hearkening back to joy, innocence, and openness. Because what happens is this closing down, and we've got to get back to, maybe I'm the tabby cat. If we can just start with them picking a cat and they click one button and get to that next screen, we've got a shot, right? So we're really very intentional about working around the typical shutdown that unfortunately can happen with those kinds of folks.
Yeah, it's so normal when the world has not felt safe and you felt so misunderstood. It's so normal to react in such a way as to where you close down, you become inward, and you don't know who to trust, because that's the lived experience of a lot of these kids. And so, I do feel like animals, cats, dogs, various types of animals sometimes feel safer when humans have been so cruel to you. And have discarded you or minimized your experience in any way. And so that is just it's a beautiful way to help them enter. I really love that. And I could imagine how it would really draw people in who are just needing to take some baby steps to get in. But looking ahead and I work in global talent development, and we see here in tech and Silicon Valley how the world is changing in terms of jobs. The job market is terrible right now, unfortunately, even for kids who have had all the privilege and are graduating from Stanford and Harvard this summer. They're having trouble. So looking ahead, how do you see Catapult and AAI preparing the next generation of talent for jobs that don't exist yet, especially as AI is reshaping a lot of industries faster than some of the schools are adapting?
Boy, is that the truth. Yeah, what's that word, Luddite? We live in a very Luddite time where it's like these folks who just kind of really get married to the old school ideas, and that is so irrelevant for where these kids are heading. I really appreciate this question. It's a big concern. It's one of those concerns that keeps me up at night, is thinking about what is it that will still be here in 10 years and what's going away. I had a friend back in the 90s who was one of the great photographers. He did a lot of covers for the New York Times Magazine. He did all kinds of things. He couldn't get arrested once the digital age came in because folks were hiring it was like the world of old school camera, black, what do they call it, dark room. That just went away. So I've seen examples like that in my own life where you think something's always going to be there, but the truth is it's not. So in Catapult, when I mentioned those big four, the one that's most germane to where we're all heading in this digital age is the technology upskilling portion of the platform. We're connecting students to all of the free coding workshops, free if they want to do something in Microsoft Azure, if they want to do Cisco, if they want to do, Salesforce. There's links in there to take them to free access to free resources. And also within, for example, the military, that's changing in real time as well. And it's becoming more and more digital, but these kids have to get past the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test, the ASVAB. There's access to free ASVAB test prep on the platform. If they're going into trade school, listen, you and I are both going to need plumbers. Nobody has invented a robot yet that is going to come and fix when the toilet overflows. So I believe that the trade schools in many ways are the safest of the big four because somebody has to roof, somebody has to fix the HVAC, and we're all going to want to get haircuts, and cosmetology will always be out there. So there's just a way of thinking forward about helping students understand that whatever career pathway it is, there's going to be a digital iteration that's going to come in, and they want to be in that intersectional kind of cutting edge of, okay, how can I be that and also understand what's changing in that industry over time so that I'm in a position, I'm not just the guy who can fix the electricity and I can hang a fan. I'm also someone who understands the digital sort of evolution of what's happening in my field. And I think that's a way to stay relevant.
Absolutely. I love that approach. Part of this conversation, and we sort of alluded to it in the beginning, relates to politics. Some people say, I don't discuss politics, but politics, especially right now, feels like it's everything. It affects our lives and our ability for children in our society to become the people that they dream to be, right? And so, when it comes to things that have shifted in the Department of Education, I know that you've engaged with some of this yourself. I remember the first time I voted, I was a college student, and I was not an education major. I was a sociology and Spanish major, double major, but I cared about education because I was being educated and I'm a learn-it-all, and I wanted to know the policies of the presidential candidates that were, running. And they were very different policies. They were very different approaches to education. And so I know that you care very deeply about that. I want to know, how do you see policy shifts playing a role in ensuring equitable access to career paths for vulnerable youth nationwide?
I don't. I am not somebody who shies away from talking politics, so if I may, I'll be very direct. Attended the Democratic National Convention last year. I was on staff with a candidate who ended up actually getting some delegates, and we were able to attend. I was very excited about the vision of Kamala Harris for what she was planning to do with the Department of Education, and horrified at the thought. And I thought, well, we're never going to have a situation where somebody would ever use the word dismantle. Who would even think such a thing? But here we are. Much less bring in a Secretary of Education who's UWF and with no experience whatsoever. I've been around long enough that I've been to ed tech conferences years ago when we had Betsy DeVoe back in the first administration of the current president. And she was booed off the stage at the Global Silicon Valley conference. And I will say I was one of the booers because she was talking about students as customers. And she kept using the word customers. And she was talking in business model lingo. And of course, very pro-charter. And I'm not anti-charter, but you've got to protect public education. And you've got to think about equity. And you've got to think about so many things in a democracy, and especially a melting pot like ours, that, I was just so stricken and horrified by that, especially coming out of Obama. I will put in a plug. If you really want to know what I think, I have my dissertation when I did my PhD at Pepperdine University was on this topic of college access and the way presidential rhetoric has evolved. And I did a whole quantitative ethnography analysis using epistemic network, frames and models. Like if you want to see me nerd out, it's for free on ProQuest. It's under my name, Dr. Pamela Donnelly. And what I learned in 225 pages of exhaustive research is that it's very easy for presidents to say words like the American dream, and they tend to do it in certain times and certain places, and I measure all that, and you can look at those charts and graphs. They love to say it, especially at the beginning of administrations. They love to talk about the American dream and every student deserves all this kind of talk. But then when you look at how does the policy match, how does the walk and the talk and matching? In my analysis, President Obama had a very high correlation to what he said and what he did, and brought in some really good policy and regulatory things, really strengthened the departments, strengthened other programs, online resources, College Navigator, all these things that weren't there before. But then here comes the sledgehammer, and then we kind of build our way back up with Biden. Then here comes the sledgehammer again. So I've just never seen a more anti-education, with a failed university under his belt and everything else, person in my life get elected. You can tell I'm not a fan. I can't wait to get somebody who cares about education back in the office, because I'm ready to come to the Capitol Hill and do what I can to contribute. I think we need innovators and thinkers contributing new ideas and shoring up what is becoming more and more broken by the day, in my opinion.
Well, I share that opinion, and I could nerd out with you on that dissertation, so I look forward to checking it out.
A great time. Grab your highlighter.
No, it sounds amazing. Yes. And also, I would just say, so I was in Singapore. I worked there for 10 years, and I was there when the first time Trump ran the first time, and I voted for Hillary Clinton. I was excited to vote for a woman. I had a picture of myself where I took a selfie and I was going to the Singapore embassy to vote. And then immediately after Trump got elected and he started building his cabinet and he chose Betsy, wrote my senator right away. I just was horrified because actually as a mother, had my 3 kids in international schools. Education is big on my family, doctorates, in my family and on my husband's side of the family, same thing. It's like education is not just, to me, a way to be a good employee at your organization, but it's a way to be a citizen. It's a way to be in your community. It's a way to raise your children, because education opens up your eyes, a good education, to curiosity about yourself and others, and it increases our humanity. But somebody in there like her, who obviously was against public education, even though I was not living in the States and my kids would not be a part of that system at the time, years later we ended up moving here, I still cared so deeply, and I emailed my senator to say, this is not right. I don't agree with this. And then you start to get the runaround. So I think it's sort of, well, I'll put it this way. When I lived in Indonesia, which I lived there 10 years, I think, there was a lot going on politically in the government. And I couldn't count the amount of times I sat in coffee shops in Sumatra and heard men in the community drinking coffee, complaining about politicians and that's in the corruption. And they would often say this thing, which is politicians, they say A and they do B. And so it reminds me of what you just said, and how even in corporate world, we have often people who are in roles like mine, talent development, will say, if you have values on a wall, but they're not a part of your policies and procedures, it doesn't matter. It's the behaviors, it's the way people interact, and that is way more than words. And so as you're sort of processing what's all happening now, and we have people listening, both here in the United States, U.S. citizens abroad, people that are from all different nationalities, when you think about politics and the intersection of politics and education, what are some of the things that you hope to see and you would hope to bring to something like that?
Oof, boy, how much time do we have on that one? So,
Take whatever time you need.
I was honored several years ago to go to the U.S. Department of Education, and I met with their ed tech team. And it was myself and just a small handful of colleagues who were kind of innovating in the educational technology space. The department at that time was just starting to kind of gear itself up toward a more robust understanding of how do we deal with things like the digital divide, where we've got places in America that don't even have broadband access to this day in rural America. How do we level the playing field using technology in a way that the levers of regulatory policy can help support and promote? So, I'm a tech nerd, and I'm kind of like an innovator in the space, but I am not somebody who I have written policy when I was working for the candidate that I supported, but I am not somebody who has made it my job to sit in DC and I would be bored. I'm a little restless. I like to, get my hands in lots of different projects, but the intersection of those two things requires visionaries at the table. And what is not happening right now is that we have a lot of cronyism happening at the table. And the dearth of conflicting voices, critical thinking, mutual collaborative, chewing on something together in that delicious brainstorming way that can happen in excellent universities. I was so privileged. My undergrad was Columbia University in the city of New York, but I want to mention I'm a first-gen kid, and nobody helped me get into college. I went to undergrad at the age of 30 because my family had never been to college, and I had to have my first career. I was a TV actor, saved up all that money and spent it on my golden ticket. I couldn't believe I got into a school like Columbia, but I did, and I graduated early, summa cum laude, and then I went on to a master's, and then I went on to a PhD. So I am somebody who kind of has a real sense of moral obligation to send the ladder back down. I climbed a ladder. I've lived the American dream, but nobody helped really. I had the help of just my own. I found bootstraps, and I just don't feel that it's appropriate to sit on one's privilege and not want to contribute, not want to help. The folks who are donating to American Access Institute, a lot of them are very high net worth folks who know that it's the correct thing. Do you really need another watch? How many watches can we wear? Look, I've got a nice watch. That's a pretty nice watch right there. Yeah, I only need one watch. If I need 12 watches, maybe I get rid of a couple of those watches and help some kids so that their lives aren't in turmoil and pain. So I feel like this intersection requires visionaries, people who are willing to be passionate and kind of go out on a limb. I'm putting myself on a limb by identifying myself as a Democrat in times like these. We're living in pretty much a military state. They're walking the streets of DC. They got guns slung over their shoulder. He's bringing in ICE. He's bringing in National Guard. I'm like, look, if they need to string me up like the Handmaid's Tale in the middle of a square, I will gladly be who I actually am and speaking for the cause of helping the less privileged. And if that is something that this administration or anybody else doesn't like, then try me. Try me.
Love it.
Try
Huge
me.
fan of the hand. Yes.
I'm fighting for the kids. You understand? This isn't about me. I'm
Exactly.
a social justice warrior. And when I tell you I have a sword and a shield, you may not be able to see them, but I'm on a mission and I am not messing around.
And, it's the power of a story like The Handmaid's Tale. You see Offred up there, and then you see there's nothing they could actually do to stop her. And that's
right.
The power of women in particular, I think, who have been through any level of suffering, especially, and then used that or that adversity like you faced, being a first generation. And when you look back on that and you say, I want to make it better for the next person, and I will fight, I will go through the gates of hell and back, storming those gates to rescue the vulnerable children. There's just really nothing you can do to stop those people, because I just believe that at some point that force for good, that love, that care, it supersedes something so toxic, like when we see people being snatched off our streets that, have not been given a fair chance, who've, not been heard or listened to or understood. And it really just comes down to listening to one another, being compassionate. I feel like compassion's gone. Even as I drive around in Silicon Valley this year, I've noticed even drivers are just harsher with each other. Have been flipped off for doing nothing so many times. I've seen people honk their horns at pedestrians and just curse them. And everybody's so on edge. We've seen there's research out of the SHRM Foundation, even in the corporate world, where we've seen incivility rise exponentially. And it's at high disturbing levels. And so the work that you do is so, so important. And I would love to hear you sort of give our audience of people around the world who are out there doing that good work. And it can be very exhausting, especially if you're working in places in Africa where you're watching people die because they've not got the programs, even things. George W. Bush, I did not vote for him, but I know from people who work in Africa, even just the work he did to get aid to certain parts of Africa, the fact that has been pulled, it's devastating. Babies, children, adults are dying because those funds aren't there. And so as people around the world are doing exhausting work sometimes and they feel like they're not making a difference and they want to give up, what are some things that have built your resilience that keep you going against all odds? Like when you see military in DC and you see ICE, how do you keep going? And what is your advice for people?
Okay, first of all, we have to remember our why. And the why is connected to how we identify as human beings. And so if part of your core identity is I am a moral person, an ethical person who has been given whatever talents and gifts that I happen to have, my why needs to be paying that forward, because certainly I don't have those things just for my own benefit. I have those things in order to manifest something positive for those around me. So holding on to my why, I will tell you, right before I came on here, I was at a yoga class. I really am a big believer in physical and spiritual self-care and having that be disciplined. Like, I'm 4 or 5 days a week on my mat. And for me, that is a way that I ground myself and anchor myself. I try to stay in the present moment, and I try to turn off the noise, turn off the Instagram, turn off the CNN. Like, I'm like everybody else. I can go down every single rabbit hole, but I am much more useful to everybody if I am a grounded version of myself and I'm just inviting in these little sparks of, ideas and visions of what could be, and then manifesting and implementing and building teams and executing. Like, I am a better version of myself that way. And so are you, and so is everybody else. It doesn't have to be yoga, but tether your why to your values. Like, what are we doing? Who are we, if not those people that we say we want to be? But like, where's the evidence? Like, by the fruit of the tree shall you know it. Like, how's your fruit? And if you need a break, take a break, because also compassion fatigue is a thing. And I sometimes push myself too hard. So if we need breaks, take a weekend, eat chocolate, and sit in a bubble bath for 2 days, for all I care. Like, you got to do what you got to do, people. But fighting the good fight, I just love that phrase. We must not grow weary in fighting the good fight. And this is the good fight. And none of us is promised tomorrow. None of us knows what's going to happen in this country. Democracy is teetering and tottering right now. And also, the world is full of loving people who want to help, who are trying to help. We're partnering with those people. I'm super encouraged that I know I'm not the only one out here. And by the way, this isn't me. Like, I'm just a conduit for ideas that come through and I just implement, because I'm trying to be obedient to a higher cause. This isn't about me. This is about something that is supposed to be happening, that I happen to have a skill set, and I'm happy to do this. I'm working for free. I do my nonprofit without salary, and that's okay, because I've been blessed enough with my for-profit stuff that I can afford to do that, and this matters that much to me. So put your money where your mouth is, get your feet walking, and let love be a verb. Let it be a thing that you're doing. If you're going to love, go and love. Prove it. That's my pep talk for everybody. I don't know.
I love it. So beautiful. Once again, words on a wall mean nothing if you're not living it out. It's the actions. And that's our choice. We can say whatever we want to say, but our choice is also, do we live out what we say we are? And there's nothing stronger, nothing more compelling or beautiful, and no force for good greater than people who live according to their values, values-driven leaders who see a misalignment with their values and say, you know what, I'm not willing to be in that space anymore. My complicity radar won't allow me, and I have to switch to something. And those are decisions leaders make every day all around the world to be their authentic selves. So I appreciate you so much sharing that. So powerful. Wish you all the best, sending you as many loving, good vibes from me here in Silicon Valley today to the work that you're doing. Much. And we will put links to what you've mentioned in the show notes so people can find out more, but let us know how we can find you and get more involved in what you're doing.
Thank you. I do post pretty regularly on LinkedIn, so Pamela Donnelly on LinkedIn. The website for the nonprofit, AmericanAccessInstitute.org, is where you'll learn about what we're doing on that front. And of course, if you want to see pictures of my really cute dog and my kids getting married, I'm also on Instagram with the same thing, like everybody else. I think that, what I would say as a call to action for anybody who's listening, who's interested or already involved in a nonprofit or a Title I school, and this could be even international, if there's something career related that you feel like we would be able to potentially help you, I encourage you to reach out to me. My email is just my initials, PD at AmericanAccessInstitute.org. I'm open to hearing who's out there who hears this, who thinks they might need some help for a nonprofit or a school or other population. We'd be happy to hear about what you think we might be able to do to help.
Thank you. It's been so great to have you on the show today, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Lori. Appreciate you.
Wow. That was such an incredible conversation. So many touch points with connection with her. I don't know as you listened around the world, what you were thinking, what you were feeling as you heard this, but there's something so compelling about somebody who is driven to make a difference on behalf of others, especially those who are very vulnerable and don't have the access to the same systems that many people who grow up in a home with two parents or even one parent have access to. These kids in the foster care system that are aging out are very vulnerable. And it is so exciting to hear that she's a part of the solution, even though there are so many obstacles to overcome. But what an incredible conversation with Dr. Pamela Donnelly. I really love how she's not talking only about what's broken in our education system, but she's building something bold and scalable to fix it. If you're as fired up as I am about creating equitable pathways for the next generation, then please go and check out American Access Institute and their Catapult platform. There are links in the show notes for you to check it out. And for those who want to go even deeper, our Patreon community of difference makers has an exclusive bonus question with Dr. Donnelly, where she shares her personal experiences that fuel her fight for equity. And she goes so much deeper there. I don't want you to miss it because she actually shares some things that she didn't share here in the podcast that help me even deeper understand her why and what forms her foundation that leads her and fuels her every single day to do this work that she does and to, against all odds, stay strong and keep moving forward. It's absolutely incredible. I hope that you get to hear it too, and you don't want to miss it. So go to patreon.com/aworldofdifference where you'll see that appear there in a few days. Thanks for being here. And as always, keep learning and keep leaning into the differences that make us stronger and keep making a world of difference together. Okay, difference makers, I know you, and I know when you hear something you really enjoyed and you learned from it, you want to share it. I am like that too, which is why I love to promote guests on this podcast for you to get to hear them yourself. Sometimes they write books, sometimes they write on Substack, sometimes they podcast, sometimes their voice is just every day in the workplace where they live and impact their communities in a variety of ways with all the hats that they wear. So if you enjoyed this episode, and I hope that you did, please share it with a friend, a parent, a neighbor, somebody you went to boarding school with back in the day, somebody at work, your boss, people on your team, because this is a message they needed to hear. And if it impacted you, please give us a 5-star rating and give us a review. It really helps our reach for more people like you to find us, the difference makers, the listeners, the leaders, the people in your communities that are making the world a better place. I appreciate you so much. Has life ever thrown you a curveball? I've been thrown 1, 2, maybe 3. And okay, if we're being honest, a few more in life. And sometimes you just need a professional to talk with it about. And friends help and family helps, but having a professional therapist has been a game changer for me because of the skills they bring into those conversations. And I want you to have access to that too. So BetterHelp, I have been willing to give you 10% off your first month if you sign up today with www.betterhelp.com/difference. You deserve to have somebody walking through this with you. You deserve all the healing. And a professional is the kind of person that will not only listen, but they will give you tools to walk through this journey so that you are not alone. www.betterhelp.com/difference to get 10% off your first month today.